And so, what was growing up like for you?
Growing up for me, well, I got into taxidermy because I was a vivid outdoorsman.
Yep.
I grew up in Colorado. I spent a lot of time hiking mountains and hunting and fishing. Basically all summer, we were at the lake. We had a little like cabin. Um, it was a trailer, really, but we called it the cabin.
Uh-huh.
And we spent a lot of time up there. And I had a really, really loving set of parents. I had an older brother. In 2003, he committed suicide. Um, he was my half brother. So him and I had the same dad, but different moms.
Uh-huh.
Dad had full custody. So we were together all the time. He was my best friend. Um, he had a drug problem, and I was an athlete, so it was hard for me to understand,
Yeah.
especially being really young. But at 17, my dad uh, did what he thought that he could do to help my brother, and it wasn't working. So he actually sent my brother to live with his mom,
Mm.
and we didn't see each other as much after that, but we would still stay in contact. This is like before I had a cell phone.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really have any way to contact him, but my parents would, excuse me, get in touch with him. He would come over. Shortly thereafter, he had a son, Jason, my nephew.
Mhm.
And I got to see him a lot. That kind of helped build him coming around more.
Yeah.
And then on January 4th, 2003, was a day before his birthday. Him and Jason came over, and my parents watched Jason, and I had a 65 Mustang, and it was on a weekend. It was a Friday night or whatever. And, I was in high school, and so all my friends were out cruising Main Street and driving around being kids. And so me and my brother just went to the store, and he bought us some cigars, and we just cruised Main Street and had a good time. Everything was awesome. And then at 3 o'clock in the morning, the cops knocked on the door and told me my brother was dead. So um, I don't know. I wish I could have. I wish I could have had that conversation that night about what was bothering him,
Yeah.
but nothing seemed wrong,
Yeah.
you know. And so it was a shock, really. And I really didn't let that hit me until his funeral, and then I lost it. You know, that was rough. But yeah, that was a difficult time for sure. You know, especially since I had seen him that night.
Yeah.
And then literally hours later, you know, yeah, it was just not good. But with that being said, as I stated, my brother had a drug issue.
Yeah.
That led me into a career as a deputy sheriff. So it was like, let me think, 2008 or 9, I want to say. I had found a job working at a prison, and it was in Burlington, Colorado. And it's no longer even open. It's just an empty, humongous prison. It's vacant. Nothing. No, nothing. And anyway, I had already had my first child, Haley, and I was married to Brooke. And so after talking to her about it, I kind of said, hey, I'd really like to get into law enforcement. And, I know that this isn't law enforcement, but it's a starting point for what I would get into if I were to ever go on the road. So she was like, no, it's fine. If that's the career path you want to take, then I will, I'm on board. So we packed up our family and we moved 3.5 hours away. And I started working at the prison. I was there for about 18 months, and I got called into the investigator's office. And nobody wants to go into the investigator's office because generally that means you screwed up,
Yeah.
right? And so I'm thinking in the back of my head, I'm like, man, I have no idea what the heck I done. I don't think I've done anything wrong. Well, the investigator, his name was Tom Ridnour, and he pulled me in, said, shut the door. And I'm thinking, holy cow. And Tammy was the assistant investigator. She was in there too. So I'm like, what did I do? I'm thinking the worst case scenario
Yeah,
at
yeah.
this point. The only thing that would have been worse is if the warden was in there too. Because then I'm like, holy cow, I'm going to be an inmate before I walk out of this office.
Yeah.
So anyway, long story short, I know I keep saying that, but and my stories are long.
Ah,
But Tom asked me to come run the jail for Kit Carson County Sheriff's Office because he was in for election for the county and dominating. So he knew he was going to be the sheriff and wanted me to go run his jail. And blown away, shocked, and happy. I was like, yeah, absolutely. After I found out pay and all that stuff, of course, I'm not going to take a pay decrease, of course. So, yeah. So then I went over the sheriff's office, ran the jail, promoted to corporal in 3 months, promoted to sergeant in another 3 months, and then after I was sergeant for 4 days, and Tom and Robbie was the undersheriff, called me into the office and offered to ship me to get my certification. And so at that point in my life, I was like, man, I'm doing everything right. I'm working my butt off and it's paying off finally, So I went to El Paso County and finished their police academy. And then I was on the road for Kit Carson County. I don't even know how long. I don't know how long. But anyway, it was a great job. It was a great opportunity. It was a difficult job. I worked a lot of hours. Being on salary, working that many hours was difficult. What they did instead of paying overtime is they gave you comp time.
Okay.
So, if I worked 8 hours extra, then I could have an extra day off.
got it.
The problem with that is you never got that extra day off. Not as
Seems
often.
to be how it works.
Yeah, not as often as you would like to.
Yeah.
But the problem with it was if you didn't use your comp time, it didn't roll over into the next year.
Okay.
So you would lose it up to a certain amount of hours. I think it was like 40 hours or something. But the benefits were great. The job sucked. People are mean, But you got to remember too, I was dealing with the not so good people of the world. So that's why they hated me, which is fine. I was just trying to do right, But really, I definitely give my brother credit for that. His choices made me want to make the world a better place. And I thought about that every time I would pull a car over. I never did speeding like I speed. I sped when I was a cop. I sped in my uniform and deputy pickup. That's just something that people do, and it's sometimes not even on purpose. So I didn't write speeding tickets. I didn't give a crap about that. I was there to fight real crime. Somebody's breaking into a house. I want to be there.
Yep.
If somebody is destroying the school, I want to be there. I just I wanted to fight real crime. And so that's why I spent so many extra hours working. Was my buddy Travis, who's now the sheriff. He is really good at like undercover stuff. using CIs to buy drugs and getting the streets cleaner. And that is what I liked. I really thoroughly enjoyed that. Even though there was sometimes I would sit in my car for hours on end and nothing would happen.
Yep.
It was the times that something did happen where I was really glad that I worked, on my time.
Mhm.
I chose to take my time and invest it into the streets for the county that I live in because I want to live in a safe place. And so, yeah, but that's a really long answer again, but
No, it's good
yeah,
because I mean, it's cool too that I mean, I think we need more people with integrity in positions like that too.
I think so. I mean, there's bad apples in every line of work.
Of course.
But it bugs me that the bad apples get such a publicity
Mhm.
in the news and whatnot.
Mhm.
Where's the news station talking about the firefighter or the deputy that jumped in a raging river to save a child? You don't hardly even hear those stories, but that stuff happens.
Yep.
No, you're going to hear about somebody that was, physically or mental, whatever, abused by a terrible cop.
Yep.
And that's not fair to the people that are trying to do right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it could be a ratings game, right? So you get more ratings for the negative stuff, but we're also programmed as people to see the negative and kind of.
Oh, for sure.
And I think it's kind of playing off of that, right? So yeah, I get that too. And I mean, that's why we did this. I mean, we're doing this podcast too, is like to bring awareness to like the normal stuff, right? So like the 98% of the world that's actually normal are the people, because we get fed the 2% of the the BS essentially, right? Like.
Right.
So then we see that frequently on social media, news, whatever. So we tend to believe the world's like that when, I mean, every time I go out and see, I feel like the world's
Normal.
actually pretty sweet.
Yeah.
It's not what you see, right?
It is what you make it, though.
It's true.
I
Yeah.
believe that.
Agreed.
There's a lot of times where, and I'm sure you've dealt with this too. You have something bad happened in your life.
Yep.
And you're hyper focused on the bad.
Yep.
But the sun is shining. It's 75 degrees.
Mhm.
I have the day with my child.
Mhm.
We have no plans.
Yep.
And the fish are biting.
There you go.
I mean, it's literally that simple. But we as humans make it so difficult.
Of course.
Yeah.
And think about it too. Think about like, say if I watched the news for 2 hours before I would go out to the day, I'm
Yeah.
going to be focused on everything that I just
Right.
all those, just discrimination, just people being treated poorly or whatever. And then I'm going to go out in the world and that's what I'm going to be seeing. Like, oh, that proves exactly what I heard today.
Right.
When I might have been totally oblivious to that had I not watched it. Right.
Right. Absolutely.
Right. And I'd notice all the good things around me. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. I had somebody ask me about the news the other day. And they're like, "Oh, did you hear about that?" And I was like, "No. Nope."
Yeah, same.
Oh, well, I don't care. I don't care because I don't see that.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
don't see that in my life. It's like when, I know we have to be careful with verbiage here, but when there was a certain virus floating around, there was a lot of stuff being said that I just did not see in
Yeah.
my life, and uh, I don't know. I mean, I believe that happened? Yeah. A lot of people got sick. A lot of people died.
Mhm.
But as far as the over, what am I trying to say? I think it was played up to be more than it actually was,
Yep.
because, like I said, I just did not see all the horrible, horrible things that they were talking about. I just didn't see it in my life. And I lived my life just normal as could be.
Yep.
I didn't change a thing.
Mhm.
And it never, yeah, I don't know. Different, I guess. I stay away from the news. I actually have zero social media now. Yeah, I've really I still have an Instagram, but I haven't posted on there in months.
Yeah.
I just don't like to see bad when the world is so good.
Agreed.
Yeah.